My name is Rachel Alvarez, 41 years old, and until yesterday, I was the executive coordinator to Michael Green, VP of Operations at SummitLink Systems, based in Denver, Colorado. After 12 years of late nights, flawless audits, and countless hours refining our internal platforms, I didn't expect my journey to end with a morning meeting in a cardboard box. Monday started like any other. I arrived early, latte in hand, reviewing my system upgrade checklist. But when Michael summoned me unexpectedly at 9 a.m., something felt off. If I'd known what was coming, I might have disabled access to certain core functions first. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. What happened next was something I never imagined. I started at SummitLink in 2012, fresh out of a career change program, after being laid off in the recession. My degree in systems analytics helped me land an entry-level coordinator role, and I swore I'd grow into something bigger. I began by learning everything I could about our aging platforms. On my lunch breaks, I rewrote scripts, streamlined operations, and quietly developed macros that cut reporting time by hours. Within 3 years, I wasn't just managing Michael's schedule, I was the engine behind his performance reports. "Rachel, how'd you get this done so fast?" he'd ask. I'd smile. Just a little automation. But those little solutions had taken countless late nights and weekends. I missed my niece's piano recital to resolve a back-end failure. I skipped Thanksgiving dinner twice for year-end reporting. Still, I believed it would pay off. Michael often hinted at leadership opportunities. "We've got plans for you," he'd say during my reviews. But things changed 8 months ago when Lena Marks joined the team as his secondary coordinator. Where I brought results, Lena brought charm and cappuccinos. Her resume was thin, but her timing was perfect. She laughed at all of Michael's dry jokes, and her flattery disguised her lack of technical know-how. Soon, she was sitting in on meetings I'd once led. Then I noticed Lena had accessed confidential HR and engineering files. She wasn't cleared for those. I brought the access logs to Ben, our IT lead. He looked uneasy. "Michael signed off on her clearance," he said. That night, I quietly created encrypted backups and documented my systems in full detail. I knew the direction things were headed. Over the next few months, my visibility dropped, while Lena's rose despite her repeatedly asking me for help behind closed doors. When I overheard her mocking my lack of ambition, I didn't react. I knew what was coming next, and I knew SummitLink wasn't prepared for the consequences. The system upgrade was scheduled for Tuesday. Lena asked me about it on Friday. I gave her the high-level overview. The critical steps, though, stayed with me. "Michael wants me to understand the process," Lena said with a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. I gave her a general overview, skipping the critical security protocols and layered authentication sequences I'd personally built over years. Some things couldn't be explained in 5 minutes. I planned to apply those elements myself. Then came the email, the one that should have raised every alarm. The monthly executive meeting was pushed to Tuesday. A new calendar invite popped up for Monday morning 9 a.m. with Michael and Karen from HR. Still, I didn't suspect a thing. After 12 years of loyalty, I thought my position was secure, perhaps underappreciated, but stable. Monday morning shattered that illusion. There was a strange tension in the air as I entered the office. Eyes flicked toward me and quickly looked away. The usual greetings were missing. Even Rick from facilities, who always made weather jokes, avoided eye contact. I sat at my desk and stared at the calendar. 9 a.m. The meeting was minutes away. At 8:55, I gathered my notepad and tablet and made my way to Michael's corner office. Through the glass, I saw Karen already seated, lips tight folder, open. Michael stood by the window phone to his ear. I knocked once. "Rachel, come in." "Close the door," he said, ending the call. "No." "How was your weekend?" No eye contact. He motioned to the seat farthest from his desk. "Let's not draw this out," he said. Karen read from a document. "SummitLink is undergoing organizational restructuring to improve efficiency," Michael cut in. "Your position has been eliminated." "Eliminated," I echoed, barely processing the word. "We're consolidating support roles. Your tasks will be absorbed by other team members," he added flatly. I tried to stay composed. "What's the new structure? Is there another role where my technical skills fit?" "That's not relevant," Michael replied. Today is your last day. This wasn't restructuring. It was termination. 12 years, I said softly. I've given SummitLink 12 years. Karen slid the severance documents across the table. 2 weeks' pay per year of service. 3 months of health benefits. Standard NDA applies. I thought of the upgrade scheduled for Tuesday, the one only I fully understood. The system transition requires critical steps, I warned. We have IT staff. Lena will handle it, Michael said. She doesn't have the background, I replied. Let's stay professional, he snapped. I looked at him. Realization dawning. My skills had been used, not valued. Outside the office, I spotted Lena at her desk, smiling. 12 years gone in 15 minutes? And they had no idea what tomorrow would bring. The night I stayed until 3 a.m., salvaging corrupted client data after a database crash, the customer platform I rebuilt piece by piece over 6 weekends. The quarterly presentation, Michael took credit for the one I wrote from scratch. As I stood to leave the meeting, I offered one final comment. The system has layered authentication protocols. Tomorrow's update needs to follow them exactly. We've got it handled, Michael replied, already dismissing me. They didn't. The documentation I left was thorough, but it didn't include the proprietary sequence built on cybersecurity guidelines. That process lived entirely in my head, and that was by design. I could have insisted, could have explained the consequences, but instead, I nodded. I was done handing them everything for free. Outside the office, Carl, our security lead, waited. Sorry about this. Rachel, he muttered, walking me to my desk. Just protocol. I packed my things under watchful eyes. My degree, family photos, a desk plant from my nephew. 12 years reduced to one cardboard box. Ben from IT approached, ignoring Carl's warning glance. This is wrong, he said quietly. Everyone knows it. I'll be in touch, I replied, my voice even. At the elevator, Lena stood waiting, triumphant. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything, she said, syrupy and smug. In the lobby, Michael reappeared. Maybe guilty, maybe just going through the motions. Rachel, I want to thank you for your service. I looked at him, really looked, and finally saw what I'd missed, a mediocre leader propped up by other people's work, especially mine. I extended my hand. Good luck with tomorrow's update, I said calmly. He expected a breakdown. Instead, my composure rattled him. As I stepped through the glass doors for what I thought was the last time, a strange calm came over me. They could take the title, but they couldn't take 12 years of knowledge, strategy, and security systems custom-built in my name. Tuesday would be very interesting. The drive home was surreal. 12 years of service ended in 15 minutes. The parking space everyone called Rachel's spot, unofficial but respected, would be taken by someone else tomorrow. I set the box on my kitchen counter and stood motionless. It wasn't even 10:30 a.m. on a Monday, and I was already home. I collapsed to the floor, back to the cabinets, and cried. For the missed holidays, the unpaid recognition, the loyalty wasted. Then I stood up, washed my face, and made coffee. Assess the situation, I said out loud. It was time to rebuild, this time for myself. Around 4:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Ben from IT. I hesitated before answering. Rachel, it's chaos here, he said immediately. No greeting. Everyone's talking about what happened. It's not right. Thanks, Ben, I replied, unsure how to process the sudden outpouring. No, you don't get it. He lowered his voice. There's more. I sat up straighter. Lena's been having private meetings with Michael for weeks. She convinced him she could manage both your role and hers for a small raise. Said it would save the department money. I clenched the phone tighter. That explained a lot. But it's worse, Ben continued. The executive presentation is tomorrow. The Burton Group. Estimated value $20 million. Michael's banking his SVP promotion on it. The Burton Group. Our biggest prospect. That demo would rely heavily on the proprietary infrastructure I'd built, including the live data visualization dashboard and the automation platform I'd coded from scratch. And the system update I asked, though I already knew. Scheduled for tonight, Ben confirmed. Lena insists she's got it handled using your documentation. A pause. Then, She doesn't know the security sequence, does she? I closed my eyes. No, the standard steps are there, but the sequence is intentionally omitted. It has to be applied in exact order with admin-level triggers keyed to my credentials. That's what I figured. Ben sighed. I tried warning Michael, but he brushed me off, said I was being overly cautious. An ethical dilemma settled over me. I could call Michael, walk him through the protocol. It would be the professional thing to do. Or I could let them figure it out the hard way. A failed update wouldn't harm anyone, but it might destroy the presentation. And Michael's promotion. Rachel, Ben asked gently, "Are you going to call him?" I looked out the window. Denver's skyline glowing orange in the setting sun. "Michael made his choice this morning," I said. "SummitLink is no longer my responsibility." After hanging up, I spent the evening organizing every major project I touched, every script I'd built, every time my work had been presented by someone else. Not for revenge, not even for a lawsuit. Though the idea flickered. I just needed clarity proof for myself of what I'd contributed and what they'd taken for granted. At 11:03 p.m., a text from Ben, "She's starting the update now. Wish us luck." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the secured backup folder on my laptop and reviewed the one thing Lena didn't have: the exact authentication sequence. And I waited. I knew exactly what would happen if the authentication sequence wasn't executed properly. And it was clear Lena had no idea what she was walking into. A part of me considered sending a last-minute warning email. But a deeper part, one I was just beginning to trust, saw this for what it truly was: not revenge, but an opportunity. A chance for my actual value to become undeniably visible. I closed my laptop and got ready for bed. For the first time in 12 years, I didn't set an alarm. Tomorrow would unfold however it needed to. And for once, I wouldn't be racing to fix someone else's mess before dawn. As I drifted off, I felt something unexpected: relief. The constant pressure to prove I was more than just the assistant had evaporated. Whatever was coming next, I would face it as the professional I'd always been, not the title I was handed. Tuesday morning arrived clear and quiet. I woke without an alarm for the first time in years. No urgent texts from Michael, no last-minute edits to slide decks, no panicked server alerts. I actually sat down for breakfast. By 9:00 a.m., instead of rushing into a department meeting, I was polishing my resume and scrolling job listings. One role at Nexus Technologies stood out: systems architect. The description matched my real skill set, not my old job title. I spent an hour crafting a personalized cover letter detailing the systems I'd built and secured. At 10:17, my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Rachel Alvarez?" a woman asked. "If you found strength in this journey and want to follow what comes next, hit that subscribe button, not just to support the story, but to stay connected to every new chapter that reminds us how setbacks can become our greatest turning points." Yes, this is Rachel. This is Jennifer Parker with Nexus Technologies. We received your application and we're very impressed. Would you be available for a video interview tomorrow morning? "Yes, absolutely," I said, stunned by the fast turnaround. "Your background in proprietary database management aligns perfectly with what we need," Jennifer added. We scheduled a 9:00 a.m. interview. I hung up hopeful for the first time in days. Just then, my phone buzzed again. It was Sarah from accounting at SummitLink. "Rachel, it's a disaster," she whispered. "The system crashed during the update. Nothing's accessible, not the client data, not the demo files. Everything's locked behind security errors." I said nothing. "The Burton Group is here. They've been waiting almost 2 hours. Michael's trying to stall, but..." She hesitated. "They need you." "Has Michael called me?" I asked. "Not yet." "Then I'm not involved," I said gently. At 11:45, Ben called. "It's worse. The system read the failed update as a breach. It triggered your lockdown protocols." Another call flashed across the screen. "Michael." I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, "Rachel, we need your help. Please call me. We'll discuss consulting rates. This is urgent." There was no acknowledgement of how I'd been treated the day before, just the assumption that I would come running to fix the mess they created. 3 more calls from Michael came in over the next hour, each voicemail more urgent than the last. By the fourth, his voice had shifted entirely. "Rachel, please. The system is completely down. We can't access any client data. The board is involved now. Whatever you want, name your price. Just call me back." At 1:30 p.m., a new name lit up my phone: Patricia Ellison, SummitLink's board chairwoman. I'd only met her twice in 12 years. "Ms. Alvarez," she said, her tone crisp, "I understand you were let go yesterday after 12 years of service." "That's correct," I replied. "I've also been informed that you are largely responsible for building the proprietary systems that are currently in crisis." "I contributed significantly to those systems," I said, choosing my words carefully. She didn't hesitate. "Why on earth did Michael terminate you?" He explained that SummitLink does not promote assistants to technical positions regardless of their contributions. There was a pause, followed by a sharp inhale. "I see. Well, Ms. Alvarez, the board would like to correct that misjudgment. Would you be willing to return immediately as a consultant to help resolve this?" "I'd need to consider the terms," I said. "My schedule is quickly filling. I have an interview with Nexus Technologies in the morning. I'm prepared to authorize emergency consulting rates. Triple your previous hourly compensation minimum engagement of 40 hours. Patricia replied. It was a generous offer, but it left out something critical. "And what about recognition for my prior work?" I asked. Another pause. "That would be part of the discussion once the crisis is under control." "Would 3 p.m. work for you to meet at the office?" I agreed. As I hung up, I sat back and absorbed how drastically the tables had turned in less than 24 hours. The crash wasn't sabotage. It was the natural result of ignoring foundational safeguards, the very ones I had created to protect the system from misuse. At 2:45, I slipped into a sharp blazer and headed back to SummitLink. The building looked oddly different, not because it had changed, but because I had. I was no longer walking in as a loyal subordinate, hoping for recognition. I was walking in as the solution, the expert they could no longer afford to overlook. The receptionist did a double-take when I entered. "Miss Alvarez," she said quickly, standing. "They're waiting for you in the executive conference room." As I walked through the office, the tension was thick. Clusters of employees huddled in hushed conversations, scattering the moment they saw me. A few offered faint smiles or nervous nods. Lena was nowhere to be found. Outside the executive conference room, Ben intercepted me. "Rachel," he whispered, "it's bad." "How bad?" "Nothing's been accessible for over 4 hours. The Burton deal is imploding. 3 other clients have called about potential security breaches. Has anyone attempted another fix?" Ben shook his head. "Michael ordered all hands off after the 3rd failed login triggered deeper security lockdowns. They're waiting for you." I took a deep breath and pushed open the conference room door. Michael sat at the far end, pale and tight-lipped. Beside him, Patricia Ellison maintained a steely presence. 3 familiar IT leads and Karen from HR rounded out the group. Rachel Michael began trying for control. "Thanks for coming," Ms. Alvarez. Patricia corrected him, cool and direct. "Thank you for agreeing to consult under such urgent circumstances. I believe we have terms to finalize." "First," I said, setting my notebook on the table without sitting, "I'll need documented recognition as the original system architect and developer, retroactive to my first major implementation. I'll require independent contractor status reporting directly to the board on technical matters. And I expect public acknowledgement of my contributions." Michael opened his mouth, but Patricia cut him off with a raised hand. "Those terms are acceptable in principle pending legal review." "Now can you fix this?" "I can," I said. "But first I want to understand what happened." All eyes turned to Michael. "Lena followed your documentation," he muttered. "Something went wrong with the login process. The authentication sequence I corrected? It's not documented. That was intentional. It requires specific implementation knowledge, which no one asked me to share." "You withheld it," Michael said sharply. "I was terminated without a transition. Knowledge transfer is standard protocol." I replied, calm and professional. Patricia's eyes narrowed. "We'll address process breakdowns later. Ms. Alvarez, how long will it take? With full access and no interference, 2 hours. Get started, she ordered. The paperwork will be ready when you're done. As the others filed out, Michael lingered. Rachel, this whole situation, it's Ms. Alvarez, I corrected, or System Architect Alvarez. Once the paperwork is signed, he flushed and I walked out. The server room, my second home for years, welcomed me with silent screens and blinking alerts. Ben had already prepped the console. Only core IT staff here, he said. Board's orders. I reviewed the logs, fingers flying across the keyboard. She skipped the sequence. The system read it as a breach. Over the next 2 hours, I restored what months of neglect had nearly destroyed. No data loss. I confirmed, leaning back slightly. The security protocols performed exactly as intended. Marcus, the head of IT security, looked sheepish. Those were your protocols? The ones you flagged to me months ago? Yes. They're the only reason nothing was compromised. I stood stretching after 2 intense hours at the terminal. The system is stable now, but I strongly recommend a full backup immediately. Word of the system recovery spread fast. As I exited the server room, Patricia Ellison stood waiting near the hallway. Her posture was upright, her expression unreadable. Impressive work, Ms. Alvarez, she said. Legal has the consulting agreement prepared. Additionally, we'd like to offer you a permanent role, Director of Systems Architecture, reporting directly to me. I hadn't expected the offer so quickly. It was gratifying, yes, but also complex. I'd like to review the complete terms, I replied. Of course. We've reserved the executive meeting room, she said, gesturing ahead. Shall we? As we walked side by side, I noticed the shift. Colleagues glanced up from their desks, pausing mid-sentence. Eyes followed us. The assistant who once delivered meeting notes now walked shoulder to shoulder with the chair of the board. Inside the meeting room, Michael sat stiffly across the table. Karen from HR was there, along with Gerald Phillips, the company's general counsel. The system has been fully restored, I said, taking the seat directly across from Michael, not down the table as before. All client data is intact. There was no breach. Excellent. Patricia nodded. Now let's formalize things. Gerald slid a folder toward me. This covers your consulting terms for today's emergency work. Triple your prior hourly rate, paid immediately upon completion. I read the document carefully. Clean. Professional. I signed it. And now, the permanent offer, Patricia said. Director of Systems Architecture. Full technical leadership recognition and a salary that reflects that role, well above your previous compensation. Michael shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. What would the reporting structure be? I asked. You'd report directly to me, Patricia said, and lead a newly formed architecture team. I sat quietly for a moment, letting the words settle. The title, compensation, and authority are what I've earned, I said. But before I accept, we need to address how this happened. I turned to Michael. You terminated me after 12 years because, as you said, assistants aren't promoted to technical positions? That wasn't just short-sighted. It revealed a cultural flaw. Michael cleared his throat, eyes darting toward Patricia, who watched silently. I agree, I added. If SummitLink wants to move forward, it must first own its mistakes. Yesterday's decision was hasty, Michael admitted. We failed to properly acknowledge your technical contributions. It wasn't just a failure of recognition, I corrected. It was systemic bias. How many others have been boxed in by outdated job titles despite clear skill and impact? Patricia leaned forward. You believe this is a broader issue? I know it is, I said. Ben in IT started in data entry. He's been implementing advanced security measures for years without promotion. Anita in marketing built our entire analytics dashboard. She's still classified as an administrative coordinator. A heavy silence followed. The room shifted from tension to reflection. What would you propose? Patricia asked finally. A comprehensive audit, I replied. Review job classifications against actual responsibilities. Adjust compensation and titles where appropriate. Launch a career development program that encourages cross-functional growth. I paused, then added, I'd like to lead the technical assessment portion myself. Patricia gave me a look of measured consideration. That's an ambitious initiative. It's necessary if SummitLink wants to retain talent, I said, including mine. After a moment, she nodded. Draft a formal proposal by the end of the week. In the meantime, we'll process your new title and backdate your technical contributions. And, Lena? I asked. Michael finally spoke. She's been reassigned to marketing administrative support with proper supervision. I nodded, not out of vengeance, but because the role now matched her actual abilities. As the meeting wrapped, Michael asked to speak privately. Patricia gave him a guarded look before stepping out. Rachel is. Alvarez, he corrected himself. I owe you an apology. You do, I agreed evenly. I should have acknowledged your work years ago. The truth is, your systems made me look good, and you feared that publicly crediting me would diminish your own position, I added. He looked down, chastened. Something like that? Recognizing others doesn't weaken leadership, Michael. It strengthens it. He nodded slowly. I'm learning that more publicly than I would have liked. Better late than never. I gathered my things. I'll see you tomorrow. In my new capacity. As I walked through the office, the energy had changed. Colleagues who diverted their eyes a day ago now offered congratulations. A few looked surprised. Others vindicated. Ben met me at the elevator. Director of Systems Architecture, he said, grinning. Finally. And with a mandate to audit cross-department contributions, I added, so you'd better start documenting. His eyes widened. The elevator doors slid open. I turned to face the office floor. Yesterday, I left in shame. Today, I walked tall with the power to change the very system that had failed me. I connected my laptop to the boardroom display, steady and composed. Thank you. For this opportunity, I began to present my assessment of SummitLink's technical infrastructure and how we utilize our internal talent. For the next 40 minutes, I laid out the systems I'd designed, their measurable impact, and the overlooked contributors buried in administrative roles. This chart, I said, highlighting a 5-year trend line, shows a 38% increase in operational efficiency. These weren't lucky breaks, they were the result of deliberate technical design executed quietly behind the scenes. Patricia leaned forward. And the financial savings. Approximately $23 million in streamlined operations, I answered, plus another $11 million from avoided downtime and prevented breaches. A few board members exchanged glances as murmurs rippled around the table. The recent crash, I continued, shows what happens when technical expertise is excluded. We lost the Burton contract, a $20 million opportunity, not because we lacked talent, but because we ignored it. I paused. Here's my proposal. 1, conduct a full audit of technical contributions company-wide. 2, reclassify roles and adjust compensation to match real responsibilities. And 3, create a development pipeline for cross-departmental growth based on skills, not titles. Michael, our CFO, raised a brow. That's a big investment. So is losing high-value accounts and talent. I replied, we're already paying for this. Just not on paper. The board voted unanimously to support my proposal. Patricia appointed me to lead the initiative with dedicated resources. After the meeting, Michael, my former boss, approached me. That was eye-opening, he said. But I have concerns about the restructure. I nodded. Let's meet this afternoon. When he arrived at my new office, a change he clearly hadn't adjusted to. He came in cautious. Your proposal may disrupt workflows. Status quo already failed us, I replied. The systems worked because of the architecture I built, not by coincidence. His pushback softened. I opened a folder of awards he'd accepted, each one crediting systems I created. You never corrected them, I said. He was quiet. This isn't about blame, I continued. It's about building a culture that values real contribution. That includes your relationship skills and my architecture. We found common ground. Over the next few months, we restructured departments, elevated hidden technical talent, and even helped Megan, whose missteps sparked it all, find a new path in marketing tech. The transformation was real, and the lesson, my value, had always been there. I just finally stopped waiting for someone else to see it and required that they did. I want to hear from you. Have you ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told to stay in your lane despite giving everything you had? If Rachel's story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Share your own journey, your silent victories, or the moment you finally stood up and said, "Enough." Your voice matters, and when we share our stories, we remind each other that we're not alone. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's this. Your value doesn't decrease just because someone else fails to see it. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away, not in defeat, but in quiet strength, knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less. Don't wait for someone to hand you permission. Build your path, recognize your own growth, and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Whether you're just starting your career or recovering from a setback, you deserve to be seen, heard, and respected. Support stories like this by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who needs encouragement. Let's build a community where skill, experience, and heart are valued over politics. And remember, you are more than your title.